The Walsh family were excited for their camping trip. They packed up their car and headed out into the woods. They thought it would be a nice break from their busy lives, and they were looking forward to spending some quality time together. It had been a while since the whole family had spent some time together. It looked perfect. Tall trees surrounded by bushes and flowers created a sense of tranquility. It was everything they were hoping for and more. The kids couldn't wait to start exploring, and James and Anne were happy to see how excited they were. As the sun began to set, they all gathered around the campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. The kids were wide-eyed, listening intently to every word their parents said. When James woke up, he noticed that his wife was already out of bed and getting ready for the day. He yawned and stretched, then got up and walked over to her. "Good morning," he said, his voice still groggy from sleep. James and Anne were happy to see how engaged their kids were, and they knew that this was a moment that they would cherish forever. What if something bad had happened to them? He started yelling for the kids, his voice echoing through the forest. But there was no answer, only the sound of birds chirping and the wind rustling through the trees. Her voice sounded strained, and James couldn't help but notice that she seemed distant. They called their names, but there was no reply. But something about the scene made her uneasy. Curiosity got the better of her, and she slowly approached the figures. As she got closer, she realized that they were two kids. Hours passed, then days, but there was still no sign of the missing children. The police arrived soon after and were shocked by what they saw. The two kids were lying face down in the mud. The pain was too great and the memories of their children too vivid. It was a smooth, gray stone that didn't seem like much, but to James, it became a symbol of his loss. He kept the rock and placed it on the mantelpiece in his house. It is a reminder of the evil that exists in the world and the pain that it can cause. But it's also a story of hope. Hope that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure. Every time he looked at it, he was reminded of his children and the love that they shared. One day, James decided to go for a walk in the forest. He needed some time alone to process his grief, but he also knew that their memory would live on in his heart. As the years passed, the pain began to fade, but the love remained. We appreciate your support and hope you continue to tune in for our future videos. Thanks for watching. James and Anne grew old together, sharing stories of their children and the joy that they had brought into their lives. As he walked, he came across the clearing where the kids had been found, but now their dreams had turned to dust. They were covered in dirt and their clothes were torn and tattered. The kids had been beaten and tortured before they died. It was a brutal and horrific scene that left everyone in the town traumatized. Who could have done such a thing? The question echoed through the streets, leaving everyone on edge. The woman who had found them stood nearby, her face pale with shock. They were nowhere to be found. James and Anne were devastated. They couldn't understand why this had happened to them. What could have possibly taken their kids away? They had been missing for 7 months, and now here they were, lying in a forest clearing. The news of the discovery spread like wildfire, but people started to move on with their lives. The Walsh family was never the same again. James and Anne were consumed by grief, and they struggled to cope with the loss of their children. They blamed themselves for what had happened and wondered if they could have done something to prevent it. People left flowers and candles at the site where their bodies were found. It was a heartbreaking scene that tugged at everyone's heartstrings. "Good morning, sleepyheads," he said, his voice echoing through the silent forest. It was a constant ache that followed them everywhere. Then one day, something strange happened, and with their kids growing up so fast, they knew that they had to do something to strengthen their bond as a family. But then he noticed that something was wrong. Their sleeping bags were empty. The police had done everything they could, and there was still no trace of Thomas and Anne. And Junior, it was a mystery that baffled everyone. The family was torn apart, and the pain of losing their children was unbearable. They walked for a while, until they reached a clearing. There was a lake in the middle of it, and the kids started running around, excited to explore their new spot. James and Anne sat down on a nearby log to watch them play. They felt a sense of contentment wash over them. This was exactly what they had hoped for when planning this trip. They packed up the car and headed out. With them were their 2 kids, 12-year-old Thomas and 9-year-old Junior, but what they didn't know was that this camping trip would turn into a nightmare. They tucked the kids into their sleeping bags and told them one last story before they fell asleep. James and Anne watched them sleep, feeling grateful for the love that surrounded them. This was the perfect family moment, and they knew that nothing could take it away from them. The family disappeared without a trace, and 7 months later their bodies were found in strange circumstances. But what really happened to them? It was early spring when James and Anne Walsh decided to take their kids on a camping trip. Or so they thought, because the next morning when they woke up, everything changed. Anne turned around and forced a smile. "Good morning," she replied. Thomas stirred first. Then Anne Jr. They both yawned and snuggled deeper into their sleeping bags. James smiled. It was always. That's when she saw something that made her gasp. There were two figures lying on the ground. She couldn't make out who they were. She quickly dialed 911 and told them what she had found. As the police carefully turned the kids over, their faces were revealed. It was Thomas and Anne Jr. The community rallied together to support each other during this difficult time. As the year wore on, the pain in the town began to subside. The wounds were still fresh. He understood that they were gone forever, and there was no bringing them back. They knew that they had been blessed to have them, even if only for a short time. The Walsh family's story is a tragic one. If you liked this video, please leave us a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates. Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess who had a big problem. Every night she had nightmares about an evil witch who wanted to steal her beauty. The witch would cackle and say, "Your beauty is mine, princess, and I will use it to get the handsome Prince Charming's heart." Then the princess would wake up in a cold sweat. Now, the princess was a kind and gentle soul, but she was also vain. She spent hours every day looking at her reflection in the magic mirror, admiring her own beauty. But the thought of losing her beauty to that wicked witch filled her with dread. One day, the princess was so upset about her nightmares that she decided to visit the Oracle of the North Wind to see if there was anything she could do to stop them. The Oracle lived at the top of a mountain that was always covered in snow, and the princess had to climb for hours to reach her. When she finally got there, the Oracle told her, "I see your worry, princess. I know why you've come, but I am very busy right now. I have an appointment with a king in an hour, and his beard is in danger of falling out, so I don't really have time to help you." The princess was crestfallen, but she wouldn't give up. She begged the Oracle, "Please help me. I'm scared the witch will take my beauty and I won't be able to find the Prince Charming." The Oracle sighed and said, "Very well, but I'm only going to tell you this once. Listen carefully. To get rid of your nightmares, you must make a wish upon the northern lights. But be careful what you wish for, because it will come true." The princess thanked the Oracle and hurried down the mountain. She wanted to get home before dark so she could test her new plan and put an end to those horrible nightmares once and for all. That night, as the northern lights danced across the sky, the princess stood by her window and made a wish. She wished with all her might that the witch would take her beauty instead of her life. Then she went back to bed and fell asleep. In her dreams, she saw the witch enter her room and say, "I have come for your beauty, princess." Then the witch took her mirror and smashed it to pieces. The princess woke up and found herself in her own room, safe and sound. The witch was nowhere to be seen. The next morning, the princess got dressed and went to the throne room to get her day started. As she walked through the castle, she noticed that everyone was staring at her. They all looked shocked and surprised. The princess was confused until she looked down at her reflection in a nearby puddle and gasped. She had no eyelashes, no eyebrows, not even any hair. Her skin was pale, and her lips were thin and unattractive. The witch had taken her beauty. As the princess stood there in shock, she heard a voice behind her say, well, look what the cat dragged in. So you made a wish, did you? You foolish, naive girl. You should have known better than to mess with me." It was the witch. The princess was terrified. She ran away as fast as she could, but the witch was too quick for her. She grabbed the princess's hair and pulled her to a stop. "You can't escape me now, princess," she said with a wicked smile. "Your beauty may be mine, but your life is still yours. And believe me, I have plans for you."